Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. This is the news. My name is Joe. It is Thursday, the 24th of August. We're going to be getting into some transfers today. Todibo back on the menu for Manchester United potentially as a centre-back and central midfielder is still a target for Erik ten Hag. This is the thing. We're hearing all this. We've got to sell first. He still wants these players. There is still ideas in place, and there is still a plan in place, hopefully, to try to get more transfers in at Manchester United. We've got a week left of the window, and Ten Hag still wants 2 more players. Can United get it done? Also, we'll be looking at a potential move for Facundo Pellistri as well, which would be slightly shocking, if you ask me, and slightly disappointing as well, with the fact that he's literally playing games for Manchester United. And also, a bit of an update on the ownership latest as well. We'll get into that later on. Get your comments in, get your thoughts in on these stories in the comments. Let's start off with sort of a double-headed story, this one. So one thing leads to another here, so stick with me. So let's start with Mason Mount. We saw yesterday Mason Mount injured and out for up to 6 weeks with a hamstring injury. You see there, Mason Mount is set to be sidelined for 4 to 6 weeks, and his absence could have repercussions for Scott McTominay's future at Manchester United. Mount was substituted toward the end of the 2-0 defeat to Tottenham on Saturday with a hamstring injury and will be out until after the international break next month. A 4-week layoff could rule the England midfielder, a £55 million summer signing from Chelsea, out until September the 19th. There's good news and bad news here. The good news is, in a sea of bad news, let's be honest, is that if he's out for 4 weeks, he might only miss 2 games, which is quite a good thing. Because obviously, you know, with the international break coming up, that takes up 2 weeks. And I think he would miss this game coming up, the Arsenal game, 2 weeks off, back for the game afterwards. That's the plan, hopefully. Obviously, if it's 6 weeks, you then start bringing other games into play as well. But there's a potential that we don't actually lose him on the pitch for too long. However, the other side of this is United are now down a midfielder. We know that Erik ten Hag was willing to sell Scott McTominay at the start of the window. Fred has already left, obviously replaced by Mount. Now Mount is injured. United are down. We also want to get rid of Donny van der Beek, which puts us another midfielder down. Kobe Mainoo is also injured for a sort of undisclosed period of time, so we're another midfielder down. You know, Ten Hag wanted Amrabat before all of this. He must really want him now. And let's move on to that next story then. This is sort of coupled with that one. Amrabat is training on his own. He won't travel with us for the next game. That's according to Fiorentina's manager, so he knows what he's talking about. There's obviously, you know, something going on here with Amrabat wanting to leave Fiorentina. It's not just paper talk, because you don't get dropped from the squad because you're rumoured with, about leaving another club. We saw Harry Maguire on the bench for Man United a couple of days after it had been announced they'd agreed terms with West Ham. You know, Scott McTominay is for sale. He's still on the bench for Manchester United. For a player to be dropped out of the squad entirely, that he's clearly making it obvious that he doesn't want to play for Fiorentina anymore, that he wants to move. So something is going on here. Whether this Mount injury will sort of change things, because it could go one or two ways, this one. That's the other thing. It could either go, right, Mount's injured, we need someone in midfield, let's get Amrabat. Or it could go, right, Mount's injured, which means we have to play McTominay, which means we can't afford to lose McTominay, which means we can't sell Amrabat because we have to sell to buy. So I don't know which way this is going to go. We've seen it in the past where sometimes a player gets injured and then you end up keeping the backup rather than selling the backup. So it could be the case that this is McTominay's sort of, you know, way to stay in the squad, or it could hurry things along and go, right, if we need to sell McTominay to replace Mount or to replace a midfielder, let's hurry up and sell him so we can get Amrabat in, because he's closer to the sort of profile that Ten Hag wants. But again, it's tricky, isn't it? Faraz says, Joe, say we get Amrabat, what would be your starting midfield? It's hard to say after those first 2 games, isn't it? It's hard to carry on with Casemiro, Mount and Bruno, but I do think that seems to be the midfield that's got the most potential to win the most games, if you get me. I still think Eriksen's a good player that was very good for a lot of last season, and won't have entirely lost all of his fitness and youth just in a single year. I don't know. The fact that Amrabat's 20 million quid suggests to me that he's going to be an important player for United, but I don't see him coming in as a starter. I still think it'll be Casemiro, Mount and Bruno, and we just have to find a way with those players for the balance to be better. I don't think it's a case that they aren't good enough. I think that they need to play differently, and they're capable of doing that. I know players can't radically and quickly learn an entire new skill set, but as a footballer, you can be told, stay back a bit, and you can do it. This thing of like, he's not that type of player. Well, be that type of player then. It's not like we're asking him to, be a completely different type of player. It's positional stuff where you literally, as a footballer, you choose where you stand. It's not like you need to be able to be all of a sudden a world-class dribbler when you're a bit clunky. You're not asking anyone to do that. Mason or Bruno, stay back a bit. Casemiro, stop diving in. Luke Shaw, if you're tucking in as an inverted left back, you need to support Casemiro. Like, whatever it is, just do it. It's not, we're not asking them to have new skill sets. We're asking them to apply their skill sets in different parts of the pitch. And surely, Amrabat being there for certain games is a great thing, and as a substitute and a rest for Casemiro is a great thing. But Mount, Bruno and Casemiro, surely we can make that work. Anyway, let's move on to centre-backs then. That's the next stop on this journey. This is according to L'Équipe, obviously reliable French outlet. They're weirdly reliable in some areas, but then when it comes to transfers, they're a little bit hit and miss, which is obviously worth pointing out because we're here to bring you the news and as close to the truth as we can, rather than just repeating exactly what's said. We'll put our own spin on it and give you our thoughts on the likelihood of it happening. So Nice expect Manchester United to sign defender Jean-Clair Todibo before the transfer window closes next Friday, according to L'Équipe. The Red Devils are linked with a move for the French centre-back 23 in the event of Harry Maguire leaving. Speculation cooled last week after Maguire's 30 million switch to West Ham collapsed, but Nice aren't willing to bet on Todibo staying put. United's other centre-back target, Benjamin Pavard, is set to join Inter Milan. So there's him gone. He's expected to join, apparently, according to who is it there? Nice. It just feels to me like this Maguire impasse feels difficult to overcome. The rumours are that he wanted more money than United were offering him in terms of a payout for his contract. I don't understand it. I don't really get it. I do get, on one hand, I've said this already, about, not just voluntarily dropping down in status in job, dropping down in money. I get why that's a difficult thing. But football isn't really like other things. It's not like you're an investment banker where every job you get, you're trying to climb the ladder to this sort of end goal of getting to a job. You're 45 years old, you're the CEO of a big company, you're getting 15 million quid a year or 50 million quid a year, and you can keep that job for the rest of your life. And you don't want to drop down because sporting careers aren't the same. Harry Maguire has got, 4 or 5 years left at the top level of this sporting career, and probably the pinnacle of his sporting career, if there is to be one, well, he will have one, but if there's to be another one, it will be winning a trophy with England. That's probably, at this point, the best his career is going to get, being a key part in a Euros or a World Cup win for England. That is possible. But the only way he's going to do that is if he's playing week in, week out. So it's not the same as other industries where you don't want to I would go back to working on the shop floor when I used to be a manager. It's not like that. Your job and your career pretty much hinges on your England career at this point. Don't ruin that by, a couple of million quid here. It's worth so much more than that to have had a great career with England and potentially win stuff. I don't see why he's happy to sit on United's bench. I just don't get it. Because he's not winning a lot of fans at United, unfortunately, and I do feel bad for him in that, but he's not, and he's going to risk his England place unnecessarily when I think he's a dead set for England if he's playing anywhere, and yet we're in this position where maybe it's just bargaining tactics to try and get a bit more money out of United, but for some reason, he's willing to sort of maybe put his whole career on the line, any reputation he did have, in order to be a reserve for United, and it's just slightly baffling. So maybe we'll see some move there before the end of the window. But Todibo, apparently, Nice still think we're going to come in for him. Whether they know more about Maguire's situation than the rest of the general public or the rest of the journalists that we talk about on here remains to be seen. But that's their current speculation by Nice. If we could just see what's coming up next there, we've got Pellistri. And this is an interesting one. I'll get into some comments about Maguire as well. Get your thoughts in the comments. James Kellan said, to be fair, in my opinion, winning the World Cup is the top honour you can earn as a footballer, but everyone has different opinions on that. Sam Sharkey says, thing about Maguire is that we as fans really did mistreat him. See, the thing is, I don't agree with booing players. I really don't. I think that's just ridiculous, especially your own players. You know, if their only sort of malfeasance is being a bit clumsy on the ball at times and being, you know, looking a bit silly, you don't boo someone for that. You know, he's a Manchester United player, and whether we like it or not, if he stays, we'll probably make somewhat, you know, it's somewhere in the region of 30 appearances for United next season, like he did last season. You don't want him to be sort of overcome by embarrassment, shame, negativity to the point where he's playing badly for United. Surely you want the best for United players while they are United players. Charlie Smith says, sorry Joe, but there's no way England would win anything with that big dope at the back. England have at least 4 centre-backs that are better than he is. You say that, but he played in the Euros when they got to the final. It wasn't his fault they lost. Or, you know, whatever. England could have easily won the Euros with him at the back. The World Cup before that, I can't remember exactly how many minutes he played, but I know he was a regular. And again, they probably wouldn't have beaten France in the final, but they could have beaten Croatia in the semi-final. They could have got to a final, and who knows? You know, we've seen upsets in finals before. You know, it looked like, I know in the end City did win, but no one expected Inter Milan to look as good as they did in that Champions League final the other month. You know, we don't know. What we do know is, with Harry Maguire in the England team, they get to semi-finals and finals that they haven't done in 60 years. It's not that much of a stretch to say they could win stuff with him in the squad. It just isn't, is it? You might not like him, but look what's actually happened. We've been 1-0 up in a final with him playing. So, anyway, I just think that it's slightly strange for him to not prioritise that at this point in his career, especially with him being 30. Let's move on to Pellistri then. This one's slightly baffling to me, and I was chatting to Jay about this before. United in talks over Facundo Pellistri loan exit. Why? I don't understand this. I mean, he literally came on as a sub in our last game. Surely loans and people going out are for the players who aren't going to be getting any minutes, aren't going to be getting any real place in the squad. Not someone who comes on when you're playing a top 6 rival with you know, what, a game to try and come back from, a loss to try and come back from. We're sending him on. Why would you want to lose that? Who are we going to put on instead? Someone lower than him on the rung? It doesn't make any sense to me that. Why would you get rid of a player that is literally playing games and minutes for Man United? I know he wants regular playing time, but United need substitutes. United need players off the bench. And what we're seeing is he's one of the first choices off the bench. So why would you get rid of that? Let me know your thoughts on this. Am I missing it? Maybe I guess the thinking would be, once, you know, Martial's fully fit, once Højlund is fully fit, then, you know, once Ahmad is fully fit, then where does Pellistri end up? But how long is Ahmad out for? Let's have a look. A knee injury. That was a knee injury at the start of August, wasn't it? Is now will miss the start of the season was the quote. But I don't, you know, what does that mean? Knee injuries, it's been a month nearly already, so who knows how long Ahmad will be out. Why would you get rid of a player he literally came on in the last game to help win us the match? People saying they forgot about Diallo. No, I didn't. But yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it personally. But Sheffield United are the talks. Manchester Evening News understands United are happy with this development, but feel he could benefit from starting matches every week in order to aid his development. A move to Sheffield United could suit all parties, with the Blades eager to reinforce their squad following the loss of a number of key players this summer. Let me just have a look at United versus Spurs, the squads. So this game the other day, which Facundo Pellistri came on in, if he wasn't on the bench, who do we bring on? Because the other options that day that we didn't bring on were Victor Lindelof, Scott McTominay, Radek Vitek, and Dean Henderson. Which one of those do you bring on to get you a goal? Do you see what I mean? Like, United brought on 5 subs, three attackers, Martial, Sancho and Pellistri, 1 midfielder, Christian Eriksen, and 1 defender, Diogo Dalot. Who do we bring on if it's not him? I just don't see why getting rid of players who are actively playing for Manchester United is that's not what loans are for, are they? I don't know. Anyway, maybe he'll go to Sheffield United and we'll bring you that when it happens, but it just feels an odd one to me, that. And finally then, Sheikh Jassim continues to wait. This is according to the Mirror reporting The Sun. Contrary to a report from The Sun, contrary to the report, not agreeing with it, Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani seemingly hasn't yet won the race to buy Manchester United. He's still waiting for the Glazers. Is that written weird, or am I an idiot? Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani seemingly hasn't yet won the race to buy Manchester United, is still waiting for the Glazers. It should say and is, shouldn't it? And is still waiting for the Glazers to provide an update on his latest takeover bid. This was this weird article from The Sun that came out at the start of the week that was like, it's done, we're just waiting pretty much now for Sheikh Jassim to sign on the dotted line. And then every other journalist in the world came out and went, that's not true. No one else has heard that. It was Neil Custis, I think, wasn't it, in The Sun, who came out with this, like, basically saying, by October, Sheikh Jassim's won it, it's going to happen, keep your eyes peeled. And then everyone else went, no one's heard it. We haven't heard that. Sheikh Jassim hasn't heard that. Seemingly only The Sun that had heard that. So that was all very odd. And again, the Mirror kind of backing this up today. The Glazer siblings remain undecided over selling United 9 months after putting the club on the market. There is no suggestion that a decision is imminent. There you go. But some people saying it was a PR spin to try and get a bit of positive PR around the club after the absolute disaster that they've had over the last sort of 7 to 10 days around the Mason Greenwood situation. Basically the news you heard isn't true. And again, that's not me saying that. That's pretty much every journalist on earth who's been following this story for 9 months, except The Sun, have said that isn't true. So I would guess that isn't true. But that's going to be all from me this morning. As soon as there is any update on the Glazers takeover, or potential takeover as it is now being dubbed, we will hear and we will report that and bring that to you. It seems as though everything's stalled for the last few months. And I don't know whether we're trying to get the Greenwood situation sorted, the transfer window situation sorted. I don't know what the order of proceedings is, or whether these things have no effect on each other and the Glazers are, as they typically do, taking as long as possible with the situation because they are indecisive and terrible as businessmen as well as owners. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back. We've got loads coming up today. We've got Off the Bar, me, Steve, Adam and Jay. We'll be looking at some of this stick that everyone seems to think it's fine to just give United at the minute. We've got TalkSport popping up. We've got Micah Richards popping up. We've got, I think, Jamie Carragher as well. Everyone's now, he's Ten Hag's not doing a good job. He's not improving players. Aren't United crap? Basically, they're trying to start the engine for a little Ten Hag out party. And to be honest, I'm not having it. So we'll be talking about that this afternoon on Off the Bar. Make sure you check that out. And also, hit subscribe, because every time there's breaking news, we'll bring it to you. Every time there is any update on any transfer, on any of the takeover, we will be here live. So hit the notification bell as well so you see that stuff and you don't miss out. Thank you for joining me, and we'll see you in a bit.